still there? Okay. Hang on just a minute, okay? I mean, I'll be up in a minute. Thank you. Okay. I've got to go run check on somebody at the lobby. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I was right. I was just muting until Stephanie got back. She said she was going to check on another, maybe Lynn, I think that you said may have shown up in person. Stephanie, do we need to wait for Samantha and Lynn? Is Lynn going to just join there at the City Hall? Stephanie.
All right, there you go. Close on out.
There
we go.
Don't we love technology? Everyone looks so lovely, though. Except for Ed, your office is a mess. Fourth time is the charm. Hi, Carol. It's so nice to see you.
Hello, hello. Good to see you, Sam. How's everything going?
Wonderful. I love seeing the pictures of your beautiful baby girl on Facebook.
Oh yeah, she's my retirement plan, trying to get her Instagram famous.
That's perfect. She's already got a fan club for sure.
Yeah.
So my screen is a little askew, but I think we have Lynn on as well. Okay. And I see that we have Chairwoman Kristen Rhodes on there. All right, so Madam Chairwoman, I think we're ready to convene the meeting unless y'all already have in my absence. Have you already started the meeting?
No, we were waiting because it was just Carol and I as the two members that were present. We were waiting for Liz to get on there as well. And waiting for you, of course, but we will go ahead and call the meeting to order at 12:06 p.m. And do a roll call of who's present. You had already mentioned everyone, but we'll purposes of the meeting go through Carol Papajohn,
Present.
Lynn Erickson, Kristen Rhodes present. And
let me see if I can get Lynn because she was in a virtual lobby earlier. And we need her to make a quorum.
yes,
She was there. Hey, we lost you in the virtual world. Okay. What? Yes, that would be, I had problems as well. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. She said she was on and then she was disconnected. She's going to try again. It may be her service. So.
while she's reconnecting, we'll notice the staff that is present. Stephanie Lucas, Ron Pulley.
Hello.
Always joyful. Samantha Abel. Oh, Samantha was gone. She'll be back, I'm sure. We have Kathy Wortham.
Here.
And Jean Griffin. Jean. Oh, I'm sorry. And
Here.
our wonderful
Thank you, Ed.
IT guy who obviously made his office outside now all of a sudden. But since we have to wait for Lynn, I guess, for quorum, we need that for approval of the minutes as well, correct?
Yes.
Carol was talking about his retirement plan. Mine has, since our last meeting, has been born as well. And our retirement plan, it looks like, is hopefully going to play ball. Because he'll be 5 months old. He'll be 5 months old next week. No, this week, tomorrow. 5 months old tomorrow. And he is already 20 pounds and going into 12-month clothing. And so we're hoping he's going to be our ball player, and that'll be our retirement plan.
That's crazy.
He's a big boy. He was over 10 pounds when he was born.
Oh, wow.
It was no wonder I couldn't breathe.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Haley's fantastic at taking, I'm not very good. Like, I see her and I'm like, oh, she looks cute. And I just think that she looks cute. I don't think to also like take a picture. And Haley's very good about capturing those moments. So she's fully responsible for all of our public documentation of cuteness.
I don't know about fully responsible because I'm Facebook with your mom.
Well, mom,
yeah,
mom plays a role there as well, for sure.
That's great. Well, what we can do as we try to get Lynn back on, she may have just sketchy service where she is, but if we can just ask Jean to go ahead and give us a recap of where we are for the fiscal year end, we could just do the budget report. Okay. And this would be based off of the last page in your agenda, if that's okay. Jean, is that all right with you?
If I can get it, I am outside of the network to get into Teams.
Does this help, Jean, if I do this?
Okay.
You gotta live COVID. You know what I mean? We're all nothing if not adaptable. So.
I know. Let me see if I have a copy on
Hang
me.
on.
I think I do. Let's see. So here we go. Our revenues, let's see. I only have a recap. Samantha, would you mind doing it for me?
No, I'll be happy to.
Since I'm terribly unprepared.
Yes. No, we're all rolling with it. So if we look at the columns from left to right, just a comparison of last year, to this year, we began, and I say last year, but I mean the year that we're in, excuse me, we've been working so much in next year's budget, I'm ahead of myself. But for fiscal year 2020, which is that second column, we began the budget with quite a bit of carry forward funds. And so if you look at the bottom, the beginning fund balance, we had $269,196. And you see the prior year carry forward, we had $99,669. And so this current year, we really limited, our spending because, of course, we were uncertain whether the bridge was going to, whether COVID was going to be impacting tourism and, to what extent. So it's been very touch and go. So when you look at the projected activity going up to the top for this current year, you'll see the expenses for the arts festival. We did have expenses that were incurred with that group because of course COVID happened in the middle of March, and so they had already expended T-shirts, posters, and their normal advertising for that event. And so those that check had already been cut to reimburse those costs. And then for TDC miscellaneous, if you'll go back to the fiscal year 2020 performance, you'll see it's on page 10 of your packet. And this is a breakdown of some of those expenses, including the Gulf Breeze High School senior project. If anyone's had an opportunity to visit Shoreline Park North, Ron and his team put together a senior project tribute and partnership with the 2020 class that will be there for future graduating classes as well. And it's right up against Shoreline so that, people who are visiting the park can see that. And I'm going to ask Ron, will you talk a little bit about that effort?
Well, yeah, it was, we thought for, a long time on how best to do it. And we came up with the idea of doing the tree and the portion of the bridge, and allowing the seniors to come up and autograph that. The beauty of it is that it's an ongoing project, and next year's graduating class will be able to come up and we will whitewash it again and give them a blank canvas, and they'll be able to sign it. So it's going to be something that'll be ongoing for years to come and not just a one-time activity.
So that was I guess you could call it a unbudgeted, unanticipated expense that obviously had not come to the tourism board prior because it really, came out of the school year, being shortened and wanting to come up with something that would be kind of lasting. And so we looked at the fact that there had been no monies expended for the recreational multipurpose sports trail, that we had budgeted that $36,320. And you see that we expended none. And then the funding for the splash pad this year also, we expended none. The Blue Ways project improvements, you'll notice that of that $10,000 that was budgeted, we expended none. That was for a portion of the Woodland Park. However, Parks and Recreation submitted for a recreational fishing grant with BP oil spill recovery dollars, and we expect to hear an announcement in December. And so you'll notice for next year, we're not budgeting a carry forward for that. And I'm going to ask Ron to talk a little bit about that grant project, because I think it'll be, of interest certainly to the Tourism Development Board. So Ron, can you talk a little bit about that recreation fishing grant and what it all entails?
Sure. The recreation fishing grant is going to encompass a lot of the Blue Ways plans that were originally on the board for the for Woodland Park, for Vista Park, which is at the foot of the Bobsite Ridge, as well as Shoreline Park. It's going to include some additional restroom facilities. It's going to include ADA accessible personal watercraft launch sites, improvements relative to shower, fish cleaning facilities at Shoreline Park South. There's a list of, we're probably looking at $900,000 worth of improvements to those three parks. And those are the three parks that we have identified as having the parking and the amenities that attract individuals to Gulf Breeze from outside of our county.
Does anybody have any questions about that before we keep rolling down the projected year end? Okay. All right. And so the electronic sign for Shoreline Drive, again, you see that we did not expend any monies there. The tourist-oriented wayfinding signs, which has been a really cool project of this board, again, we postponed that. And then also our annual Spring Fest. So what you see is that the expenses this year were either for, actual cost related to the Arts Festival, which those, costs had already incurred, or the Chamber of Commerce. Otherwise, it's just reimbursing that a portion of maintenance and debt service for our tourist-oriented parks. And so we project, by the end of this year, that we'll be carrying forward into next year's budget $48,105. That's even with the reduced revenues that we've received that we'll talk about in a minute. And so then for starting next year's budget, we're projected to begin the budget with $219,400. So, for next year, we anticipated that the TDAC would want to proceed with those projects that unfortunately were postponed, this year due to the pandemic. Otherwise, we did not propose anything new because we do expect that our tourism dollars will, continue to take a hit just with the, the phased reopening and the uncertainty. So it is a conservative budget. The revenues, of course, we receive our revenues, I believe it's 2 months in the arrears. Is that right, Jean?
Right, Jean. We actually receive them about 4 months behind. So we have to submit a quarterly report of what we've spent to the county, and then they give us the money for the previous quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it was 2, it's every 4. Obviously, that makes it, it can be a real challenge when you're projecting, next year, when the majority of your tourism dollars come in the summer. And that's also when we're working on next year's budget. And so we have to, typically we go off of the prior year. Well, we can't do that in this case because COVID. And so that's why, we're projecting conservatively for next year, starting off, with $219,400, whereas last year, our beginning balance was closer to 270, and we've got some carry forward. So that's where we are with, where we project the end of this year to be. And then also those carry forward projects and programs for next year. We go into further detail on page 9 of 11. That just gives you, more of a breakdown of what I just shared with you. And with that, I'll be happy to open it up to any questions that the board may have.
You mentioned that part of the expenditure for the Arts Festival, and I believe it was the Arts Festival, it might have been Springfest, was things that had already been laid out, including T-shirts. Is there any thought around maybe trying to sell those T-shirts as a way to recoup the money? I don't know that you could really trigger a whole lot of nostalgia around that, but given, and I know that the Arts Festival has always been one of my favorite things, if I was given the opportunity to pay $15 for the T-shirt for the COVID canceled one, it might be something that has a little bit of traction.
Huh. That's interesting. Ron, do you know in your talks with the Arts Fest?
I'm sorry, say it again, Sam.
Do you know in your conversations with the Art Fest committee, or maybe Kathy has talked with them, the merchandise that they had purchased for the fest, did they try to sell any of that? Is there any talks of trying to sell some of that, just maybe even for nostalgia's sake?
They haven't mentioned that in any of the conversations I've had with them, but I can certainly bring it up with them. I know that a significant amount of the money that they spent was in advertising and preparation. That money was not recoverable, but I can certainly see if they do have T-shirts or other similar type of medium, I'll certainly talk to them about moving it forward and seeing if they can sell some of it.
Okay. And we'd be happy if to help if our website can be a launching pad for that. We can, I don't know if they have a website, but maybe we can help move some of that, because I think that's a very good point. There definitely might be some interested people who maybe collect shirts every year and don't skip a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about the budget, this year, or projecting, next year's projects and programs?
The high school senior project, Ron, you had mentioned that it's something that will carry over from year to year. Is there not any components that would have any expense to it to still recognize the previous year's classes, or is it just simply the piece of the bridge is going to be repainted and then they'll have the opportunity? Is there going to be any new addition, or would any additions be part of the expense by that year's class that they might add to that?
There are two parts of the exhibit that specifically recognize the class of 2020. There's a plaque that the class purchased that is on site, a permanent plaque that's on site that acknowledges their contribution and recognizes them for what they had to endure during this year. And also the tree. The tree is carved, but it doesn't, it's just the carving on the tree specifically says, we love our graduates. But the plaque that's in place acknowledges the contributions of the class of 2020 on a permanent basis.
And that the plaque was paid for by the graduating class because they always have an annual class project, and they did not get the opportunity to do that either. So they worked with the city in helping identify the spot. Ron narrowed down to 3 or 4 different locations with Mayor Fitch, and then the class is the one who selected the final location and paid for the plaque, which I think was about $1,100, if memory serves me, Ron. Yeah.
Correct.
So thank you for that question. It did come up. It'll be interesting to see what happens next year, because I know the senior class really wanted to see their names last longer than a year. But of course they hadn't moved on, to college and jobs yet. So
Not like our graffiti bridge, right?
yes. Only there's a sign there that says it is not graffiti because we have a bet as to how long it will last before somebody tries to add. And I think so far I'm doing pretty well, Ron.
I think you are too. I think
Yeah.
you are too. But
I had a lot of faith.
I won the wager on how many were going to sign it though.
Yes, that's true. You did win that wager. Yes, you did. So we had a great showing for that. But so thank you for your flexibility. Ordinarily, we stick to our budget. We don't have anything. It's just very rare that we have something come up. But this was during a time of emergency, and it was during a time when our board and committee, was not meeting, and so we did, act on that pretty quickly. The only thing I can think of, other than this special project for the graduating class that might be something similar, would be the sand volleyball that Randy Hepworth built, and that was a few years ago. But of course, the Hepworth family built the sand volleyball, and it was more popular than we ever imagined. And so the city council recognized that it had been built at far less a cost than what it would be if we had bid it out. And so they approved reimbursing the Hepworth family a portion of that expense. And then the next year, I believe the council approved the additional amenities such as the bleachers and lighting and so forth. And so that one was a little bit in the reverse, but also very exceptional and brought to the tourism committee after the fact. So
Well, I think it was a great use of the funds, especially since there were excess funds that were not able to be used for things like Springfest and the splash pad, et cetera. I think it was a great use of the funds, and very nice to recognize the class in that way.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Absolutely.
All right, I don't have anything else to report related to the budget. So unless there are additional questions, we would appreciate, unfortunately you can't take action, but we can put in the minutes that there was, because due to lack of quorum, there was a general consensus to support the budget. General consensus is a term I use during budget workshops when action, isn't taken. But if y'all could, just give me some kind of general approval or consensus, then I can forward that to the city council when they hold their next budget workshop and consider this for formal approval.
General consensus granted.
Thank
The
you.
general consensus agreed upon.
I guess you can't make a motion for general consensus because you
No.
don't have a quorum.
Yeah, it happened when we have budget workshops. A workshop, you suspend parliamentary procedures, and so like our utility board does the same thing. Generally approved. So we appreciate it.
I would make one comment. I know we can't vote on the minutes, so this will be something we'll have to vote on at the next meeting. But I do see, I believe, an addition that needs to be made to the minutes. It does not list Tracy Goodson as a member present. However, it references him as seconding motions in.
Yeah, he came in
the
late.
minutes. So
He came in late.
he needs to be added as a member present onto the minutes.
We'll take care of that.
Okay. All right, I'm jumping around a little bit, but on that note, I did want to update you that, of course, Tracy, by selling, his business, he is no longer eligible to be on this committee. And the same with Beverly McKay, also resigned her position from the committee. And so we will be advertising for those vacant positions. It'll probably be once budget, is complete. So it'll be probably mid-September when we start advertising for volunteers for boards and committees. But hopefully we won't have such an issue with the quorum the next time that you meet.
And then I did have one question. It's not because it's kind of pertinent to business. Is there any update on on an estimated completion date of the home 2 that's being built?
Ooh, good one. Can I phone a friend? Yeah, let me call Shane and see. I don't know off the top of my head. I regret to say. Maybe.
So I guess we can't talk about the erosion mitigation project, I'm guessing, because we don't have quorum.
We can still talk about it, and you can still give us, general direction, thumbs up or thumbs down. If it is something that you want us to incorporate into the budget for next year, dependent on funding, we can do that. We can monitor next year's budget, and if we have more revenues collected than we anticipate, we can also revisit it at that time. So yes, we can dive into that, and I would turn it over to Ron. He has visited the site and done some research, and so I'd ask for him to provide you with the staff report.
Thank you, Samantha. The request comes from from a citizen who has recently purchased the property that the isthmus connects to. The background is in the memo. The city originally invested $100,000 in repairs to this isthmus, which is located on the north side of Dead Man's Island, the side closest to the 3 Mile Bridge. It is the only land connection to Dead Man's Island. Without this land bridge, the only way to access Dead Man's Island would be by boat. The issue that arises and that this committee needs to consider is that this land bridge connects to a private piece of property. It does not provide public access to Dead Man's Island. There's no indication from the property owner. I haven't posed the question to the property owner, but there's no indication that he's willing to allow the public to cross his private property in order to access this land bridge and therefore Dead Man's Island. So that's something that the committee needs to consider. The one thing that we do not have information on right now, and only Heather Reed, who currently is working in Puerto Rico, can provide us, is what would be the impact if this land bridge is breached? Will there be an environmental impact? Will there be a negative impact on Dead Man's Island if this land bridge is breached? Will there be a change in the ecological status if this is breached? I can't speak to that. Only Heather can speak to that. So those are the things that need to be considered when we consider this thing, I think.
Yeah, my biggest question is, if it's $30,000 to give a private landowner better access to Dead Man's Island, that might not go super well. But if it's $30,000 to prevent all of Dead Man's from washing away, or $30,000 to prevent a $200,000 repair down the road to keep Dead Man's in place, that's certainly something that would have to be considered seriously by the group, because Dead Man's is 100%. I mean, that's a focal point of the Blueways. People launching paddle boards and paddling out there, like that's very, very important. So I have the same exact questions that you have, namely, what happens if you don't do it? Does it jeopardize the island? Does it create some type of, like you said, ecological situation that have to be addressed down the road? Or is it just building a land bridge to connect to private property that's going to remain private property?
Question.
I agree. I have the same questions. If it's kind of ironic that the person that's the landowner is also the ecological consultants that had worked on this years ago. Am I reading that correctly?
No, ma'am.
Oh, no.
No. The landowner and Heather Reed, our ecological consultant, are two separate parties.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood the email. I thought the email came from the landowner. But I would like to, yeah, I think if we can find out what environmental and ecological impact that would have, if it's not repaired, that would be the most important piece of information before the TDAC would make a recommendation on whether or not those funds should be used for repair of that versus just maintaining a land bridge to the island for a private landowner.
The question for you guys is, I think, will the land bridge provide will restoration of the land bridge provide a positive impact on tourist visitation to the city and to Dead Man's Island? If there's going to be an environmental impact on Dead Man's Island, and if Heather Reed or somebody else who is contracted by the city to make that determination, if they determine that that lack of a land bridge has a negative impact on Dead Man's Island in an ecological sense, I'm not sure that falls within TDAC's area of review.
Well, but it kind of does, because what I'm saying, is if it's going to, as Carol had mentioned, have an effect, an environmental or ecological effect, where it will cause further erosion of Dead Man's Island, ecological problems where it might not be, the waterways might not be as clean or safe. There potentially be more, hazardous water conditions or things where it would not be safe or conducive for tourists to utilize that amenity of having Dead Man's Island there, then those are effects of potentially not repairing that land bridge. Right.
And those are just the points that I wanted the committee to look at and debate and determine. And it's certainly up to you guys to make that determination.
So, Ron, what I'm hearing is that in addition to the consideration of whether the public will have access across the land bridge, the comments of the tourism committee are that another consideration for possible funding is whether there are ecological benefits, because the water quality certainly affects tourism in the area as well. So if the property owner's answer is no, that doesn't automatically mean that they would not be considered. What I hear is that the board also wants to know if there would be ecological benefits, and we can bring answers to both of those questions back to the board.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
What I hear as well.
Okay. All right. Very good. Anything else on that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And Madam Chairwoman, those are the only business items that we have. If there's anything else for the good of the order that anybody else would like to discuss, I did get a response back from the Community Services Department that the Home to Suite should be open by the end of September, beginning of October at the latest.
One benefit that I might hope from that is, since that is more intended to be an extended stay type property, that we might see, even though with COVID there's decrease in travel, more long-term type stays there to help maybe help rebound the tourism dollars a little bit that we've lost because of COVID for leisure travel.
Yeah.
If there's no other business to discuss, am I able to go ahead and adjourn the meeting?
Yes. Thank you for spending your lunch hour with us. We appreciate it.
We'll adjourn at 12:40. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, YouTube.